Ahead and call this meeting to order. Will you please rise and join me in the pledge to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let the record show that all board members are present and accounted for, and that no actions were taken in closed session. I will go ahead and I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. We will move on to communications. This is an opportunity for individuals to address the board on items that are not currently on the agenda. If you'd like to speak to something, please feel free to do so. Please note that although we may not necessarily respond or address the meeting here at this meeting, please know that we are listening and we will work to address your concerns. With that, is there anyone who'd like to address the board on an item that is not on the agenda? Please come forward.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for giving me 2 minutes. My name is April Travis, and I am the Executive Director of the Sacramento Literacy Foundation. I have put a little flyer in front of each of you to invite you to 2 events. One is the movie showing of The Right to Read, the greatest civil rights issue of our time. It was executive produced by LeVar Burton, who's our own guy, and Kareem Weaver is one of the stars of the show. And then we also have a literacy festival happening on September 30th. Now, I know you guys have a festival happening on October 8th, and we'll be there giving your kids books for free. So you probably won't want to come to the festival down south too, but I still want to invite you in case you do. We're going to have music, dancing, and just a fun time. And then the other thing I want to invite you to in particular is Board Director Deleuze and Superintendent Chen, welcome. And I know it's because you guys really care about kids and you've been working with United Way for a really long time and have been after it, is we are hosting a luncheon, kind of quiet, with superintendents and with board chairs to talk about the science of reading with Kareem Weaver and with, that's from the Right to Read movie, and with Dr. Tanat Smith, who is from Mississippi and is somebody who implemented the science of reading in Mississippi system across the state. I don't know if you know this, but Mississippi has a 3rd grade reading level rate of 85%, and that is compared to our reading level of 37% in Sacramento County, and the state's reading level of 37%. So Mississippi's doing something right, so we invite them just to have a lunch. No pointing fingers, no record, just a conversation, so that we can start talking about how we can together from the inside and outside, and from the top and from the bottom, get all kids in our county reading. It would be a great service to them. And that's it. Thank you so much for your thinking and for being so attentive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a real quick question. So the luncheon you were talking about, where's that being held?
That's going to be at B&L Mulvaney. I'm trying to entice you with a really good lunch.
Okay.
I don't know if you know about Mulvaney's, but they're pretty well known. They're philanthropic, and they do a pretty good, they're a red meat kind of organ. But they do vegan and vegetarian too, but they're known for their organ meats and their meats and swine. They do a good job.
We have board meeting today.
They're friends. They're friends of Willie. Yeah.
You had me at red meat.
I had you at what?
You had me at LeVar Burton.
All right. He did this movie. It's a really important thing that he did. We're trying to get him to be the face of Sacramento County's literacy movement. So maybe you could help with that too.
I was lucky. I got to have him read to me in my class in 4th grade.
Wow.
So.
Are you from further south?
I'm from South Sac. He read at St. Charles, which is where he went and where I was attending at the time. So I lucked out.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I also forgot to mention, if you are watching us, if you're watching us online, please feel free. If you want to reply, you can either reply via Gamut, or you can send a message via the chat there if you're watching us on YouTube. So we'll go ahead and give you about a minute or so and see if there's anybody who'd like to address the board on an item that is not on the agenda, that is online. All righty, we'll go ahead and move forward to reports, and we will start with the Robla Education Foundation.
I hope you will, because I was getting up before you said it. Anyway, I'm here to grace you again. If Cindy Lyons could come up and join me for a second. As you know, fireworks, most of you worked in the fireworks booth this past year, and this is the results of your volunteering. On behalf of the foundation, here is a check for $4,000 for the Strengths program. Hope you and
What can you expect from somebody from Brooklyn? So, and from your crazy uncle.
There you go, my man. Thank you. Okay, move on to Robla Teachers Association. CSEA. Superintendent's report.
Good evening. So we are in our 5th week of school, and I want to say I think and I believe we are off to a great start. All the back to school nights happened. I was able to attend Bell, Maine, and Glenwood. Great turnout for all 3 schools. And what was nice at each of the back to school nights, there was a sampling of what our cafeteria offers. And it's really, really good. So parents were able to sample and see exactly what their students eat. Mr. Castillo and I attended the Robla Park Community Association meeting. We learned that Glenwood and Taylor will be receiving a $1,000 each donation from the Health Education Council. So Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Crisp will be receiving the donation at the Walk for Health event on September 30th. The event is from 9 to 12 at the Robla Community Park, excuse me. So if you're interested, please stop by and register. We will advertise that event on our website. But we were excited with the work that they're doing at both Glenwood and Taylor. They will be receiving $1,000 each. Ms. Crisp and I participated in the African American Student Success Learning Network meeting. This is a partnership that we have with CASA, which is the California Association of African American Superintendents and Administrators, and with CCEE, too many acronyms, California Collaborative of Educational Excellence. So this was a learning network that I was involved in a previous district, and we were fortunate to participate Robla in this year's session. So we had our first meeting. My first Terrific 10 was yesterday, so I was really excited. I do want to thank all my new Terrific 10s, Madeline, Johnny, Brianna, Ivan, Alyssa, Audrey, Charles, Anthony, Robert, and Evelyn. So it was wonderful. My first experience, I really enjoyed it. Miss Lyon was actually our guest, and she actually spoke and shared about the string program, so timely. But I do want to thank Chef Sergio, Erica, and Claudia. They did a fantastic event. Latino Heritage Month begins tomorrow, September 15th. The teachers received resources by our partners at the Roberts Family Development Center. So all those resources will also be available on our website. And then October 4th is the Sacramento County School Board Association dinner meeting. That's it.
All right, we'll move on to board member reports. We'll start with Trustee Devine.
Nothing at this time.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
I will just note that tonight is the last night of the California legislature will be meeting for this session. There have been some very, very interesting bills that have gone through the California legislature, some of which we would agree on, some of which we would disagree on, but there are definitely going to be, depending on which ones the governor decides to sign, some interesting changes coming to education in California. More to be reported later. And with that, we will now move on to a public hearing on sufficiency of instructional materials. And with that, I will open the hearing. Does anyone like to address this item?
I move that we close the hearing.
Do I have a second?
You second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Section 5, approval of the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Area Section 6, presentations and information. We'll start with our facilities update.
Good evening, folks. Emilio with CFW. I'm here on my side of things, and also some things that Mr. Castillo had left for me to report as well on facility side. First, I want to thank Mr. Castillo for covering for me last couple meetings. As the board's aware, I'm a new father in the last 3 months. So it's been helpful just to, spend some nights with the kid. But otherwise, that has not stopped us from moving forward. And I hope to bring a more visual presentation to you folks at the October board meeting. But it's really because we've been spending a lot of time in the background trying to set up a lot of the programmatic elements of the improvements. As the board is aware, we've exhausted our bond authorization. We've done wonderful, amazing, and great things with it, but we no longer have that resource moving forward. So what we've done is we've really shifted towards exploiting our unique position with the state. And so this started off originally with Bell Avenue. We were lucky enough that during the course of construction to recognize that we would be eligible for some state aid money to come back to us from the California Preschool Transitional Kindergarten and Kindergarten Full Day Kindergarten Facilities Grant Program. That was funding that was being provided by a general fund surplus, specifically for the construction of preschool facilities, TK facilities, and kindergarten facilities. We were fortunate enough in the last round to get funding for not only some of the facilities we already had built at Bell Avenue, but also 4 additional classrooms that could be serviced and to replace some of the portables in the preschool complex over at Bell Avenue. I'm happy to report that we're currently in DSA regarding that particular project. We hope to be out of DSA later this month, and we would be hoping to come back to the board with a presentation of that design as it's been approved by the DSA, and also start to talk about going forward with putting together a guaranteed maximum price with the selected contractor, which was Clark Sullivan. And that's something that the board had directed us to go forward with back in June. Right now, like I said, we are trying to get to that deadline. As we reported when we applied for the grant, as of November of last year, when we actually received the original grant, we had 1 year to achieve CDE approval, DSA approval, as well as enter into contract to expend those funds. We received CD approval. Like I said, we're waiting for a DSA approval, and then once we have those DSA approved plans, we will go through the bidding process to bring forth for this consideration that construction contract going forward. We have been notified by OPSC that there are a number of districts that are currently struggling with that timeline, and they will consider a blanket extension for that program. There are a lot of small school districts, especially, that have had a hard time administering this particular approval process. And the state allocation board will be considering that particular motion at its September 27th meeting. We don't believe at this particular time that we will have to avail ourselves of that extension, but it's worth noting that it is out there. And so while we continue to press forward, you may hear reports of other districts have fallen behind and have been unable to meet those deadlines. But at this point in time, we feel like we'll be able to get all wrapped up by our deadline in November. Once we receive the construction funding from the state and we've achieved all those goals, we then have a year, once again, to expend the majority of those dollars. I'm sure the contractors will not have a problem doing that. But overall, that's kind of the overall programmatic issues we have over there. Related to that program is that back in March of this year, the board directed us to submit an application of a similar scope for Main Avenue to replace the complex of portable classrooms that we have over at that campus. That application is for 7 additional classrooms, 2 of which are for, let me make sure I got the math right. It's 1 additional kindergarten classroom, 3 transitional kindergarten classrooms, and the option for 3 preschool classrooms there as well. One of the things that we benefit from really, really well is that the state counted those years that we had the Taylor kids and then the Bell kids over at, they counted that as Main Avenue's population. And so while there is not necessarily a need for all those classrooms from the current population, the district will be able to benefit from constructing additional permanent classrooms at that site for its use either for preschool, for transitional kindergarten, and kindergarten, depending on how enrollment rolls out going forward. So that project is set to be heard by the State Allocation Board also on September 27th board meeting. And after that is completed, and once the gavel hits, we will once again begin a similar procurement process in terms of looking at professionals to help design that particular project moving forward. We also are awaiting our additional applications back from the state for all the projects that we have completed to date. We have sought reimbursement where we are eligible, either for new construction eligibility or for modernization eligibility. You may recall back in May, we reported to the board that we had received approximately $2.7 million back for our work that we had done over at Taylor. And so for those of you who were with us at the time, Taylor was some time ago. So it kind of indicates where we are in terms of getting those reimbursements back from the state. The overall program that funds state aid is a voter initiative. It is the most recent one that was approved by voters was Proposition 51. And that provided a statewide bond measure for which is funding these grants. It also funded CTE grants for unified school districts, as well as some other specialty programs going forward. That bond authorization was exhausted many years ago. So it has been replenished by surpluses provided by the general fund of the state. And so far, as those dollars have been made available, the governor has budgeted that into the Prop 51 bucket for state aid. Talking about the legislature, it is being proposed that there will be a statewide bond measure to replenish that program in 2024. After the dismal failure of Proposition 13 back in 2020, legislature stepped in and said all statewide tax measures must be considered at a general election, meaning that in years past where they might have tried to put it on the primary, all those tax measures will now be considered in November. There's 2 reasons for that. One is to minimize the actual cost of administrating those elections, and B, I believe that the legislature believes that there's going to be more Democratic turnout or more folks that are inclined to vote for tax increases in November than in a primary where said party may believe that it's less competitive. So we do look forward to seeing that legislation come forward as well. There's another interesting bill that's out there as well that is proposing a statewide or a state constitution amendment that would lower the threshold for the passage of taxes related to infrastructure and housing. And it's unclear at this point in time whether or not infrastructure would include school districts, but obviously that's something that we have kept our eye on as well. And that would be something that is being proposed also to be considered in November of 2024. In terms of other projects that are out there that are still pending, I'm happy to report that we finally have resolved the water fountain issue here at Robla Elementary. We'll be installing that during the fall break in a couple weeks. And we finally found a suitable location, utilities, and so forth. And so that will be done over fall break in order to minimize the overall impact of the school site. And then lastly, one of the projects that was talked about in June that we continue to move forward with is the design of a central kitchen and cafeteria at Bell Avenue. We did have a meeting with the superintendent and food services as well as the CBO to discuss the specifications that were presented to the board, as well as modifications to that specification in order to make sure that we're meeting the programmatic needs of the child nutrition program here. And so I'm also happy to report to Trustee Devine that in that specification, there is a learning area in that facility. And I know that was one of the requests that you had at that. And in further discussions with the superintendent and with food services, that's something that we wanted to accommodate inside of that as well. We anticipate an RFP, RFQ for architectural services to go out either tomorrow or early next week. One of the things, generally speaking, that we're trying to do is go back and requalify the professionals that we use and utilize in this process. As the board may recall, when we started off with the original measure K bond measure, we went out and we established a pre-qualified pool of professionals, architects, contractors, and professional services, the inspectors, the geotechnical engineers, all those folks. Typically, it's good practice for us to refresh that pool every 3 to 5 years. And so we are in that process of refreshing them right now. We had started out with a pool of approximately 5 architects back in 2014. In 2018, when we requalified, it dropped down to 3. And for all intents and purposes, right now we have 2. So we want to make sure that we're inviting the architectural community to come out and with that bring in additional designs and so forth, and also to encourage the folks that have been our partners for many years to remain competitive in their pricing and their performance. So in addition to looking for proposals specific to the cafeteria, central kitchen, as well as potential Main Avenue project, we are looking at requalifying that pool so that as projects come forward, the district is able to avail itself of that pool for any additional projects that may be looked at. One last item that almost slipped my mind, but the district has also requested us to go back and revisit a project that we had looked at during the modernization of Glenwood, and that was the reconfiguration of the front entrance. There have been safety concerns in the past regarding access to that site, and the district has instructed us to seek a proposal from the architect of record who did the modernization and other work there, LDA, for a design proposal related to ways to reconfigure the front of that school in order to make it more secure moving forward. So, like I said, there's a lot of things that are happening either on a conceptual or on page, but we hope to come back to the board, like I said, in October with some more visuals in terms of some of these projects that we're moving forward with as we move along. So, with that, happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you so much. Very thorough report.
I want to say congratulations on the new baby. I was unaware.
Oh yeah, so best kept secret. No, not the best kept secret. Yeah, so she's 13 weeks. No, 3 months, 3.5 months. She's sleeping 11 hours. She's feeding well. So I get very little credit. My job is to just be quiet, sit in the corner, and do whatever I'm told. And so all the credit goes to my partner. She's done a great job. And so far, she's allowed me to come back to board meetings, so we're good. Thank you again.
All right, take care. Okay, now we're going to move on to a presentation on summer school programs 2023. And why don't we start with Roberts Family Development Center.
Hello, board. My name is Blake Cudworth. I'm currently overseeing the Taylor Street After School program, but I am here to speak about the 2023 Summer Freedom Schools program here at Robla Elementary.
I feel like I'm tall. Hi, good evening. My name is Jocelyn Kendricks, and I serve as Roberts Family Development Center's Education Director, and I work alongside Mr. Cudworth, who he's selling himself short. He completely ran the entire summer 2023 Freedom School Summer at Robla Elementary, along with his co-site coordinator, Mr. Anthony Orozco. So we're going to tag team this a little bit. I'm going to let Mr. Cudworth really talk about and brag about his successes, some of his successes this summer. Please keep in mind that we will come back and give you more outcome data once we receive it and it's all tabulated and we have more information. So tonight, we're just going to give you kind of a brief overview of your summer, this summer with Freedom Schools. Oh, I have a clicker. It's fancy. I have my glasses, so you know. We're working with the force. So this summer, you can see some of the just pictures. We wanted to kind of show you a little bit of Harambe, which many of you know. I believe that is you, Miss Chin, at Harambe, our read aloud guest. We are also at Robla Elementary. He's kind of just touring our staff to give you a picture of the diverse staff that you had. And then, of course, your lovely school next door, Robla Elementary, which we absolutely love working with Principal Calf. He's just wonderful to work with. Oh, absolutely. Wonderful to work with, a straight shooter and a huge proponent of children's success. You can't ask for a better summer partner than Mr. Calf. Just want to briefly touch on, what many of you may know about Freedom School and what we intend to offer. We intend to really help scholars. We call our students scholars because we like to help them understand that they are lifelong learners and that as a scholar, you're constantly learning, you're constantly taking information in, and you're constantly growing. And that suggests a little bit more responsibility than just a student. So we like to, one, kind of be really intentional about our language with young people. Our real primary goal is to help young people fall in love with reading. Reading is the great equalizer. No matter what you do in life, if you are unable to read that contract, if you're unable to read the math problem, you're kind of stuck. You're in a struggle in life. And so we wanted to make sure that children in this particular school district and any child that Roberts Family Development Center serves has the ability to make informed decisions about their future and use their voice to impact their generation and the generations after them. We put our students in front of culturally relevant books and titles and staff with the hope that our scholars build confidence about the way that they and their peers can become empowered and feel capable and be aware of their own abilities and their responsibilities to themselves, their families, and their communities. We spend the 6 weeks helping your scholars really understand how they, as individuals, make a difference in themselves, their families, their communities, their countries, and their world through hope, education, and action. And we do that through the cooperative work groups that they participate in, which are small 3-person work groups about books. We do that through our National Day of Social Action, which Mr. DeLuce participated in this year, and also through learning positive conflict resolution models. All of the books that the Children's Defense Fund, our partner, chooses for the integrated read curriculum are all offering children new alternatives to solving different conflicts that you may encounter in your life. And we take those practices and we help children apply them to their everyday life, which is huge, right? Because life is about overcoming conflicts and learning from those times and how you handle it. So I'm going to let Mr. Cudworth take it from here about who we served.
Have to go up a little bit here, just a little bit. All right, yes. So you'll see here kind of part of our target population for the Freedom Schools program. I would note that the Freedom Schools ideology kind of came out of the 1964 Freedom Summer in Mississippi, and a lot of the beliefs that were held about, literacy and voting rights and all of those things in the 60s are still very relevant for us. So a large percentage of students coming into our population are going to be children of color. They're going to be children who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. And we know that, the district here does a great job of breaking up how long the different breaks in the year are. They have, a little bit extra time during the school year to have breaks so that the summer doesn't feel quite as long. But even with that, summer learning loss is very real within the district and within, the whole country, really. And so this 6-week program really helps us cut down on the amount of time that they're away from academics and away from learning so that we can kind of stem that summer learning loss. And these are oftentimes going to be students who maybe in a lower income neighborhood may be more disproportionately affected by summer learning loss and that kind of slide that can naturally happen. And we have a picture from Sac State. You see everybody doing their stingers up. I am a Sac State grad, so Miss Kendricks here went to UC Davis. We won't judge her for that, but this was us at Sac State, everybody doing their stinger up. So that's just kind of an example of some of the kids that we may have had in the program. We can move on there. Yep. And then this past summer, we were on one site. We loved being on one school site. This past summer, we were at Robla Elementary. We had about 145 scholars enrolled daily with us. You have a little bit of a breakdown of we talk about levels, but if we want to think of those as grades, our level 1 students, those exiting K through second, made up 70 of our scholars. We had 55 in the level 2, 3rd to 5th outgoing students. And then level 3 was our oldest scholars in the district, with, for the first time, some New Hope students, which was also a great new experience for us. There was about 20 of those level 3 scholars. With that, that means that every scholar enrolled with us was K through 8, as they are Robla district students. We had 16 young, passionate servant leader interns who we flew out to the Knoxville, Tennessee area to do a multi-day training with over 1,000 young, idealistic difference makers throughout the country. They're all doing freedom schools in their respective cities and states. And then, as Ms. Kendricks mentioned at the beginning, myself and my dear friend Anthony Orozco were the 2 site coordinators overseeing the program at Robla Elementary this summer. And this was one of our hype. We like to kind of, at the end of Harambe, give them a chance to dance their way out into their classrooms. So you'll see a few of our scholars doing a little dance runway. I can make a difference in these are our weekly themes. Each one of them starts with that phrase. And so, again, Ms. Kendricks briefly touched on this, but those different themes are massive to us because no matter how young you are not too young to start making a difference in yourself, in your family, in your community, in your country, even in your whole world. And that starts with hope, education, and action. And so those are kind of the central tenet to everything that we do with our academic portion of our program. And we want to encourage that students have a high self-esteem and a high self-respect, especially in the age of social media. That can be a difficult thing when it comes to self-image, how to interact with other students in the post-COVID times, different things like that. And so that knowing that if the student is okay on a personal level, they'll be ready to show up and have a great time and learn with us over the summer. And also service is a huge part of that. We talked about our National Day of Social Action, which we did get to invite all of the California sites to the Golden One Center to have student speeches, poems. There was some singing, some dancing, and just a lot of opportunities to talk about a really important topic, which this summer was gun violence, which we're still seeing a big influx out here in the local community. And so finding ways to push through and to lower that gun violence rate was a huge part of what we were looking to do this summer with our National Day of Social Action. Again, on each slide, we're looking to give y'all a few things that we did throughout the summer, so you'll see some of our scholars working on those different themes. And then, of course, being a summer program, we're not only going to be just purely on the academics. We also had a field trip every Friday. And so that is something the scholars look forward to each week, was getting the chance to go on a different field trip. So you'll see listed there the different field trips that we did do this summer. In the bottom middle, you do see us with a large number. I think this photo is just zoomed in on the Freedom School students from Sacramento. Beyond that, there was even more coming from different sites as well. It was a huge gathering at Golden One for our National Day of Social Action. Then we also had a number of other engaging field trips with our staff and all of the students coming together. And then one other thing I did want to highlight that was brand new this summer, where we got to bring more parent engagement into the program, was we had a Super Parent Day, where we brought out as many people as could come on a Saturday and had a park barbecue. We gave out some awards to some of the super parents in the community to highlight the work that they're doing, because we know that it takes a village to raise these scholars, and that what we do is only going to be about half of their time that they're awake that day. So it's really important that families are involved as well. And that Super Parent Day was extremely successful, and we were very excited to see that come about, and we're hoping that we can continue it each summer going forward. And that is the end of the prepared portion we have for y'all. If you do have any other questions, we'd love to field those now.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you for inviting me to come out and read to the students. That was really fun. And I hope that I get the opportunity to do it again, because I had a great time. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. We'd love to have everybody on the board at some point come in and do that. Definitely. It's beautiful to see. We saw the picture of the new superintendent up there. We had the outgoing superintendent this summer as well. So love any opportunity to get the folks that are directly impacting the scholars in front of them.
I wanted to say thank you for making it fun for the kids to learn over summer. When I went in to read, I did not see a single face that was not smiling or laughing or excited to be there. And for it being education and school, that's doesn't usually happen where every child is happy and excited to be there. So thank you for making it a program that the kids respond so well to.
Thank you for those kind words.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so very much.
Thank you, guys.
And now we'll move on to the Robla School District Summer School 2023.
Let's move this a little bit. Good evening. I'm Sean Foley. I'm the assistant principal at Bell Avenue this year, and I had the joy of supporting some of the summer programs here in Robla. So there were 3 programs. We had the Start Summer Camp run through the city, and then we kind of had a hybrid Robla summer school pull-out method that I can talk about. And then we had our ESY extended school year to service our SDC classrooms. So the Start Summer Camp was at 2 schools. It was at Bell Avenue and Glenwood. Bell Avenue had 123 students enrolled with a daily average of 67. Glenwood had 124 with a daily average of 70. It ran for 5 weeks, June 26th to July 28th, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then they had the ratio right there, 1 staff to 20 students for 1st through 6th. And then in TKK students, they had 1 to 10. This was kind of a snippet that I received from from Joanne Marson, who oversees the START program. And just a Monday, Tuesday, so it was pretty structured with activities throughout the day, organized, and breaks, obviously. And then on Fridays, they had 4 of the 5 Fridays, they had field trips right there to Sequest in, I believe, Folsom, like an aquarium, and then Quarry Park in Rockland. It's like a zip line adventure park. Rebounders, which is like the trampoline adventure park. And then they went to Rio Linda High School, I think the last Friday of the program, to their pool, which has like the slides, and it's kind of like a mini water park. So the summer school program was kind of voluntary, depending on what the principals wanted. So at Glenwood, we had Taylor students and Glenwood students. So for Taylor Street, we had 3 teachers who worked with Michelle Crisp to kind of look at reading scores from their previous year and then pull out students who are also in START. So we had 8 in K2, and then 5 students for the grades 3 through 4, and then 10. And they did 2 1-hour groups. So they would pull a group for an hour, and then they would go return them back to the START program and then pull their other group. And then we had 1 teacher from Glenwood who had 10 students. Again, she did 2 1-hour pull-out sessions. They were all in the START program, and we worked with her to identify students, because she got started a little late because we had some communication with an outgoing principal and then a new incoming principal. So we were able to reach out because we didn't have any Glenwood teachers, and so we were able to get one who was able to work with some students. Bell Avenue was a little different. Lisa Hall found funding through McKinney-Vento and was able to put together kind of her program. She had this vision, and she was able to pull it off. It was also June 26th to July 27th, Monday through Thursday. Her program was 9 to 12. The kids were there from 9 to 11. This program at Bell Avenue had students from the START program, and also she was able to extend invites to students who are not in START but who would come for their 2 hours 9 to 11, because she went through a lot of data at the end of the year to identify kids who she really didn't want to see the summer slide, as Blake was talking about. So we had a TK1 group, 2 teachers split that. They also had an IA in the room with them. And then we had a teacher with 2-3, and then a teacher with 4-5-6. And they were a 2-hour block. And Mrs. Hall was able to get a kind of a fine motor camp. So CAP Kids came out for 2 weeks and were able to pull groups of 5 who teachers helped her identify students who really needed work with their fine motor skills. So CAP Kids was able to come out and work with those kids. And the theme, Mrs. Hall had a theme for her camp, and it was kind of nutrition and food. And on Thursdays, they were able to go into the kitchen at Bell and do different cooking and helping prep. I think the older kids got to help. Believe this is a picture of them making croutons. So the older kids got to cut it up, and then younger kids got to help put it in the oven, and then the littles got to mix it with the dressing, I believe. Then we had our ESY Extended School Year program, which was also located at Bell Avenue. This program ran from June 26th to July 28th, 5 weeks. It was 8 to 12. With 20 students. We had a primary teacher and an intermediate teacher. And then as per their IEPs, we had speech services and OT services for those students. And yeah, thank you.
Any questions or comments? Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to move on to item C, EL reclassification update.
Good evening. Tonight I have just a short presentation for you to give you a little bit more information. I've already given you an update on our EL services, but this is a component of when we're looking at moving students out of EL services, which is called their reclassification process. So there are 4 criteria that are mandated by the state in order for a child to be reclassified out of English learner identification. So the LPAC, as we've talked about before, brings them into EL identification. And then these 4 criteria are what is necessary for them to be reclassified or brought out of EL classification, which means they no longer receive the 30 minutes of designated ELD. However, they're followed for an additional 4 years to make sure that they still maintain on grade level. So these 4 criteria, as I said, are mandated by the state. And after I share with you kind of what we have and what our numbers look like, I'm going to share with you some changes that are coming down the line in terms of these criteria. Okay. So this is our reclassification profile form. And this is one of the things the EL support teachers do. Twice a year is generally the time they do it, beginning of a school year and end of a school year. And the reason we have 2 time components when we do this is because we receive the summative LPAC data, some of it before school gets out and some of it after school gets out, so we don't have it until the following school year. So one of the things that we try to do is, one of our big concerns is we want to reclassify our 6th graders if we can before they move on from Robla School District. So generally when we give the summative LPAC, we start with our 6th grade students so we can get those scores into the system, so hopefully we can receive those scores back before they leave. If we receive those scores back in time, then we follow through with the other 3 components or other 3 criteria. And in Robla, the criteria that we look at, the LPAC, or the Standardized English Assessment, level 4 is mandated by the state in terms of how the student has to perform. We now have an alternative summative assessment. On that assessment, if a child performs at level 3, then they may be reclassified, or potentially may be reclassified. We also have an EL supplemental report card. So we look at how the teacher has filled out that supplemental report card, because this is part of criteria 2, which is teacher evaluation. And so they look at the EL report card for how they're performing in terms of their English abilities. And we also look at the regular report card to see how they're performing on a day-to-day basis in the classroom. The other piece of state data that we look at is their CASP scores. They need to be performing at standard met or exceeded in order to be considered for reclassification. And then the final component is that we have a conference with the parent. We consult the parent, show them where we're at, and that we are looking at reclassification, and the parent has an opportunity for input for that. For example, sometimes parents say, maybe, let's have them stay one more year. I want them to still receive 30 minutes of ELD. I'm not quite ready to reclassify my child, because they might see something that they feel like that extra support should be extended a little bit longer. So those are the 4 components that we look at.
Before you go on, I'm sorry, can you tell me a little bit more about summative level 4 and an alternative summative level 3, the difference and when you would do alternative? And
so the alternative summative LPAC is the new assessment that we just implemented, or the state just implemented. That it's it's like the CAW, or the California assessment for students who have been identified as having additional needs. So some of our special ed students. And this alternative summative LPAC is only available for that 1%, our most cognitively disabled students. Students who are between those two ends, that might be identified as having some kind of needs, can take the regular summative LPAC, and we can take a portion out. So for example, if a child is nonverbal, you can write in their IEP that they're going to take all 3 pieces, only 3 of the pieces. They're not going to take the speaking portion of the LPAC, and they can still qualify for reclassification by doing that, as long as they take 2 of, so they break it up into the oral component and the written component. As long as they take 1 of the sections into those 2 components, then they can still be reclassified. So this alternate summative assessment it's an assessment that's a little bit shorter, and it also is generally given by their classroom teacher, because that's the person who knows the student the best. And that classroom teacher helps them to really identify, like, are they really giving us what they really are capable of giving us? And so in this assessment, they might use eye gaze, or they might point instead of speaking. You're allowed to have a lot more breaks. There's a section where the teacher actually puts in some information about what they know about the student. For example, their reading level, like, are they showing us exactly what they can do, and what is their current reading level? So we can see that match of what an English student would be doing at this level and what we're seeing on this assessment for this level. Okay. And the reason it says level 3 is because they actually score that test slightly differently. It doesn't go to level 4. It's a level 1, 2, 3 type assessment, or scored assessment. Okay, any other questions about the reclassification? Okay, let me show you some numbers. So as I said, we look at reclassification 2 different times of the year. So I talked about that we look at the 6th graders if we can before they leave. When we do that, of course, we sometimes don't have their CASP scores back yet, because the CASP scores don't necessarily become available to us till after the students leave. So when we're looking in the spring, and I'm looking at a 6th grader, I might be looking at their 5th grade CASP scores, but they didn't meet the criteria with the LPAC yet. So I can take the fifth grade CAS scores and now their most recent LPAC assessment and put it together and see if we have the data that we need to reclassify that student. When we look in the fall, we again now are having more current data both in the CAS realm as well as the LPAC. And so, like I said, some of the kids, we do get them reclassified in the springtime, and then fall, we look again. And as you can see here, what I'm showing you is, this is our reclassifications from July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. So that would be considered last school year. And we had about a 6.5% rate of reclassification. The number on the left is the actual number of students, and then the number on the right is the percentage of the ELs at that school site.
Is the math just wrong on the second column?
Is the, oh, it is. You're right. Sorry. I added Bell Avenue at the last minute, had some reclassifications when I had already put together this thing, and I thank you for catching that. I put Bells in, but I didn't total at the bottom again. So yes, that should be 20.
I was just making sure I wasn't reading it wrong.
Nope, you caught my error. So now that this school year started, we have all the CAS scores and we have all the LPAC scores. So what we try to do is, for example, if we have a sixth grader, I have everything I need except the SBAC scores. I might have a reclassification form ready to go. And then if I receive that data in the summer, since many of our students now go to New Hope, some will go to Norwood, I can contact them, or I can put that form in that CUME and say, hey, take a look, this child's ready for reclassification if that CAS score comes in properly, at the level that we need to see it. And then that way they can get caught, right away and don't have to wait till the end of next school year to be reclassified. And then, of course, all the students that are remaining here, we take a look at both the CAS data and the LPAC data that we received last school year. And so this is where we are right now in terms of reclassifying students at the beginning of this school year. This 6.5%, it's hard to compare it to anything you see when you look at the dashboard because very few districts are K-6 districts. Many of the elementary districts are K-8 districts, and reclassification generally takes 5 to 7 years for a child to actually become fluent in a second language. So, our data is hard to compare to anybody else's because it's not just looking at K-6. When I have, there's a school district in the Bay Area, in the Redwood City area. No, I'm sorry, it's in the LA. One or the other two. That is K-6, and when I look at that, we're pretty similar to what our reclassifications are. So this is what I wanted to share with you about some upcoming changes. In November, this tool is going to the state board for further discussion and possible acceptance or approval going forward. So Ed Code 313.3 has made some changes, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to standardize reclassification across the state of California. So the two components, criteria 2 and criteria 3. Criteria 2 is the teacher evaluation. Criteria 3 is the parent evaluation or parent component. They want to standardize this more, because some districts are using report cards, some districts are using benchmarks with a program like maybe iReady or something that they're using. So the state is trying to get a more standardized so that when students move from one school or one district to another, it's apples to apples. So this Optel tool actually started in about 2018. They were trying to do a field test, and then COVID hit, and life happened. And we are finally at the point that last year they were able to do a field test with 174 teachers. Classroom teachers are the ones who they were looking for to utilize this tool to see how well it worked. And they're bringing their information from that field test to the state board in November. And this Optel tool will be a tool that all schools will use to meet the criteria for criteria 2 and criteria 3. For us here at Robla, because I was part of the initial, and I'm involved in the multilingual educational network. Sac County Office of Education is a grant recipient to do a lot of work with English learners. I was there at the beginning of this, so I saw what the Optel tool was going to look like. So I've spoken to you before about our formative assessment, or ALPHA tool, or English Learner Formative Assessment. Some of that is based off what I knew was coming through this. So I feel like our teachers are a little more prepared for when this tool comes into play. And it should be a pretty seamless transition for us because of us having the alpha and us already having a supplemental report card. There's some additional intent of this tool, which again, it has to do with people being able to use it as more of a formative assessment for monitoring English learner success, as well as reclassified student success. We can use it with the consultation with parents, as well as institutions of higher education, using as one of their tools in preparing teachers to be new teachers coming into the field and working with English learners. And that's my report.
Questions or comments?
Not really a question. I just wanted to say thank you so much to you, as well as the teachers and staff who work on this. We have to remember that 2 years of the 5 out of 7, the kids weren't even here because of COVID. And you still got 66 students qualified as English learners this year, just a year after kind of all the COVID stuff was lifted. So I want to say thank you and congratulations to everybody for working so hard, and it is greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much for your presentation. We're going to go ahead and move on to action items, and we'll start with A, adoption of GAN limit for 2022, 2023, and for 2023, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to this briefly?
Mr. Lopez?
Okay. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Elliot Lopez. I'm your Chief Technology Officer, but today I'm going to do my best Gerardo impersonation, and I'll attempt to explain this to the best of my ability. I know we look a lot alike, get confused all the time, but so the GAN limit is a statutory limit that was created under Prop 4 way back in 1979, and the purpose of the GAN limit is to ensure that expenditure growth in the public sector tracks with population growth and with inflation. And so under that statutory requirement, we are required to report our expenditures, our qualified expenditures from funding eligible for this limit. So the item before you basically reflects the calculations that were performed by business services that attest to the fact that we did not exceed the limit in fiscal year 22-23, and that our projections are in line. Our projections for fiscal year 23-24 are in line with the GAN limit.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you for explaining that.
Thank you.
The GAN limit is kind of interesting because it literally was something that is really kind of outdated, but it's still law, so we still have to approve it every year. All right, and with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Go ahead.
We already have a motion on the table. Okay, any discussion or debate? Hearing none, move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item B, approve logo redesign contract with Spark Marketing.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
Me? Well, summarize. So the district and the site logos need to be updated. So we are contracting with the company to ensure that we have a common look as well as ADA compliant in terms of the look and the colors.
That basically summarizes it. Yeah, we need consistency, coherence. We've had multiple iterations of logos for our schools. Glenwood has had like lots of different types and shapes of alligators and colors, and so we want to make sure that we have coherence across the district so that our schools are easily identifiable.
Do we have a specific, because working with, having worked with different organizations and had this to be an issue, a specific place, whether it's in a cloud drive or something, where these sorts of assets are kept so that people know where to go? Because usually what winds up happening is the old logo winds up getting used because that's the one that they can find, or that's the one on their computer.
Or somebody finds an alligator on Google and pops it in there. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. So
that is part of the rationale for this project, is to make sure that we do it in a methodical way and that going forward we're all using the same branding.
exactly. Okay. Any additional comments or questions?
One, I know it's not our normal practice, but I know that one of our community members had a question and just want to offer him the chance to ask.
I was gonna let, that's why I sent it to you, but is the preschool included in this, or why isn't the preschool included in that document?
They are included, so if it's a misstep, we will ensure that is.
I didn't, because I read the document, and it didn't address preschool, it did the other 5 schools.
Preschool is included.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. I will say this. That's pretty expensive for logo design. that pretty much be my only real concern with that. But
And there is a range. There are some logos that need to be completely done and some that just needs to be updated. So there's a range. I think it's, I don't have it in front of me. Is it 3 levels? 1, 2, or 3?
Yes.
Yes.
And it does encompass the district, all of the schools, and then also some additional branding that'll support our district strategy and our vision that we're communicating and rolling out across the district as well. So it's not just 5 logos. There's a bit more involved.
okay, yeah, that's kind of important because that's not a small number for logo design. Anyway, with that, any additional questions or concerns? Hearing no, move forward to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item C. Approve marquee sign for Glenwood Avenue Elementary.
So move.
Second?
Been moved and seconded.
So the original, the construction that took place most recently at Glenwood did not include implementation of a new marquee there. We, as an experiment, we attempted to deploy a large flat screen display, which other school districts are doing in certain areas, and you'll see them at airports and that kind of digital signage. Unfortunately, the location selected at Glenwood is absolutely fully exposed to the sun all day long. Is a terrible location for that kind of signage. Essentially, the display melted over the summer, and so we're going back to the traditional marquee at Glenwood.
Okay. Is this going to be a digital marquee?
Yes.
All right, any discussion, debate?
Oh, it's similar to the other ones that we.
Yes, it is.
It won't melt.
It will not.
It won't melt.
If I'm correct, similar to the one at Robles.
It is similar to the one at Robla, and it's fully visible in bright sunlight. The reasoning behind the LCD display is that at the time we were considering the ability to display video and lots of different content types, which would be much more, and it would be much more accessible to school staff to manipulate the content, but didn't work out.
Any additional discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Approve MOU between Sweat 3 Ballet Folklorico and the Robla School District.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded.
This is an opportunity to expand our offerings in our ELOP program. So this has been a discussion for a while, and we're excited to offer this to our students. It will be housed at Glenwood or offered at the Glenwood campus, but will be open to all our students.
Any additional questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item E, approve contract with Nature Bride Golden Gate and Main Avenue Elementary.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
This is Maine's yearly sixth grade science trip, right? Now with the increased costs, it hits the district threshold of $5,000 coming for your approval.
Any discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item F, approve service agreement with Janine Marcoux.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded.
Janine Marcoux was our previous early childhood education director, right? And you'll notice in the personnel action today, we just hired one. We're absolutely excited. So this is a contract for her to provide support through the transition.
Any discussion or debate?
How long is the support gonna last? Do we have that written in the contract? Or?
We don't. A contract is normally for a year, right? But when we had this conversation, we did not secure or we didn't have a candidate for ECE director. So we wanted to make sure that we had a plan. So I don't anticipate that it's not like an everyday support. It will just be on call, but helping with the transition.
Okay.
Any additional discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item G, approve truancy hunter Axiom Analytics 1-year contract.
So moved.
Second.
I have a question. Are these types of tools and resources not available in the parent square?
This is pertaining to Truancy Hunter.
Because I'm assuming that this is like truancy notices that go out to parents.
So Truancy Hunter is a system that we use to monitor and to assist with identifying students who are demonstrating absence patterns that require that we send letters of notification home to families. And so we already contract with this vendor to create to provide us with a digital tool to see that information. The way the tool works is that then traditionally office staff would generate letters that they would then stuff envelopes and mail home. And this contract amends the services that they provide to us to now automate the distribution of those letters to support our schools and ensuring that we're meeting the timelines that are required by the state and our obligations to notify parents.
Were we finding that we were not meeting those standards?
That's correct. And this is a mitigation that surfaced in our conversations with SCOE as part of our differentiated observation program.
Got it. Okay. Any additional discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item H, approve service agreement with Helene Institute.
So moved.
Second.
So this is another ELOP opportunity. I really am trying to provide, expand our offerings for our after-school and ELOP. This program is specifically targeting 5th and 6th graders to help in preparation of transitioning into middle school.
Any discussion or debate?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item 8, board member requests for future agenda items or reports. Trustee Devine.
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Cardona.
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Hamilton Stark.
I do have one thing. I find it very hard to follow the facility reports. Like I'm always very confused. I don't know if there's an opportunity to have like bullet points or something like that that could help me take notes and stay on track because I have a hard time following along. So that's all.
That's absolutely, in general, what we've done in the past is to get a PowerPoint with those points. And so that's part of this, like, manufacturing.
Thank you.
Trustee Barnes?
None.
All right, and I have none. So with that, this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you for coming out this evening, and thank you for tuning in.